I wanted to make myself a little knife for when I go out foraging for mushrooms, and here it is. It's got an oiled wood handle that just nicely fits the hand. Nice sharp blade, no nonsense. I made this by upcycling an old decorator's knife. If you keep watching, I'll show you how I did it. Okay, I went to a car boot sale today and I picked up this old knife for 75 pence. It's broken, it's obviously seen better days, but actually it's a nice strong springy bit of steel. I think there's life in it yet. I'm going to remake this into a little foraging knife to take with me when I go picking mushrooms. First thing to do, I think, is take off this old handle. There's a pin there which tells me that the tang probably goes at least that far into the handle there. So first thing to do is see if we can get that pin out. If not, I'll just split the handle off, and then when I've got the blade, we'll decide what shape we want the new knife to be. I had to split the handle off. It had been there so long it just wouldn't come out. I couldn't get that pin out. But there we go. So that's the tang as I suspected, with the little pin there. So I just need to decide now what shape my blade is actually going to be. So I think actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to square off here. So I will extend that tang a little bit. And I think I will just simply put a rounded, slightly pointed end on there. Okay, for the handle, we're just going to use this random bit of tropical hardwood. This was part of an old pallet, so I'm just going to cut a section out of this, which will be the width of that blade and long enough to get me a decent, at least 3-finger grip on it. The hole I've made there is, let's say, slightly imperfect. It does work, but it's a bit too big for the size of the blade. So what I'm going to do, I've got some epoxy here. I'm going to mix this up with some of the wood dust that I collected when I drilled this out. I'll give that a really good thorough mix. That's it. I'm going to have to shove it down there, I think. So obviously the act of adding sawdust into there has thickened it somewhat. Right, let's give that a go. So, knife blade is going to go in there like that. Yeah, that's good, that's coming back up. It is 5-minute epoxy, but I'm going to leave it overnight to cure because it's easier to deal with when it's set completely hard. The glue's all completely set. It's a nice firm bond. So now we just got to chop some bits off the handle and then file it into shape. So we've managed to file the handle into some sort of shape. I'm just going to do a bit of sanding on the flat wheel sander here, and then we'll do a bit of final sanding before we put a finish on it. Doing okay, so we're getting a nice rounded finish on it. This is only a 80 grit wheel, so we're not going to get the final finish on this, so we'll just get it shaped and smooth, and then we'll do some really fine sanding and maybe a bit of oil. Okay, so that's pretty much all the shaping I'm going to do there. Handle fits very nicely in the hand now. I've actually decided I'm going to reshape the end of the blade there a little bit just to put a point on it. Final bit of sanding, and then we'll put some finish on. Now we're down to 400 grit paper. and I'm just giving it a really good sand all over to try and make it as smooth as possible. There are some little imperfections in the wood, but that's pretty much unavoidable. This was scrap wood. Okay, so I've decided actually this blade's a bit fat and stubby really for this handle. The handle's nice and curved and graceful now. So what I'm going to do is take a chunk out the back of the blade here to give it a curve that echoes this curve here. And I think that will actually look quite nice. So I'm just going to grind it down some more before I put the finish on the handle. Okay, there we are. I'm actually much happier with the shape of that, but the handle suits the blade much better now. So, a bit of final sanding to sharpen up this blade, and then we'll put some finish on. Okay, all sanded up, time for some finish. So for this I'm starting with boiled linseed oil. That oil really brings out the beauty of the wood grain. Looking very nice already. I'm actually really happy with that. Turned out better than I hoped. Okay, important not to bunch up linseed oil rags because they can spontaneously combust. The oil gives it a lovely depth of colour. It's got a very tactile sense to it, so I actually really like that. I'm going to keep it like that, just oiled. If it needs another coat of oil later I can do that, and over time the wood will darken and acquire a patina as it's handled, and it'll age beautifully. So there we go. That's my little mushroom knife that I've made by upcycling a decorator's knife. Quite pleased with that.